Well, yes, we are live. Well, welcome back. Thank you very much. Dave, it's absolutely lovely to see you. Welcome, everyone, hopefully, who's joining us very shortly. I can see they're all piling in right now.
Piling in the door.
Yeah. It's been... I'm not feeling bad here now because the weather in Torbay is actually slightly inclement, you might say. So I haven't, so I've actually got jeans on today. Normally, I'm just sitting in my underpants, mate, but... not true.
I thought I'd wear a collar because we've got a guest. I shouldn't have done it. I should have spoke to you first.
I'm trying to be young and trendy, you see. See contrasting colours and stuff. Too late. And I realised I've just when I looked at a couple of videos recently just to check sound on each one and whatever, I realised that I was just wearing blue t-shirts all the time. So a whole array of wardrobe was blue.
I know a guy who has the same shirt. He has about 4 of the same. He has the same pair of jeans, about 4 of the same pairs, and 3 pairs of the same shoes. And that's what his wardrobe looks like. I take my hat off to him. I couldn't do that.
Well, we just broke 111 people we got in the room as well. Welcome, 111, 114 people. Lovely to see 115 people. Welcome to my jumble cell behind here. I have been, basically, my family are fed up with me already, having been a former police officer. They wish I was still a police officer because I am not polluting their house, getting in the way of all their everyday tasks. So I've been shoved in here. I'm going to have to, we're just going to have to get a better background here, mate. One of those blue screens, or I could have said this was just a rubbish blue screen.
Yeah, and then you could have like surfing pictures and in the background and tropical rainforest and
massive aquarium.
Savannah.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Very apt.
So before we start the news, I do need to do this because, of course, otherwise people would be saying, "Where is he? Where is he?" Do you see that I've changed my name this week from Dave?
Yes, mate. I do see that. And you spelt it right as well.
I know. That was a second attempt. That was after asking Gemma.
How is Finn? Can Finn hear me, or are you on earphones?
Yeah, no, he can hear you.
Hello, Finn. Hello, darling. You all right, sweetheart? Look at him.
He's been on a night-long walk, so he's going to snooze, I think.
Oh.
They're all snoozing. I'm surrounded by snoozing.
Oh. Well, you've taught them to hide their particulars this week, because normally they are spread all over the place.
Anybody who wants to see Rory's particulars, just say, and we can arrange that.
Rory is only too happy, just like his dad, to. Sorry, Dave. Yes, at least the technology isn't letting you down this week. Lenny says, "Thank you, Lenny. You're absolutely correct."
Harry, look, David Wilding noticed.
Oh, what?
Have a look. It's about. Third comment up from the bottom.
Oh, David Wilding.
The strategic positioning of your book. He noticed. We were talking about that before we started.
He has, yes. Good. Well done, David. He's a top man.
Right. Shall I do the news?
Go on, do the news. What's been happening this week? Yeah, go for it.
It's been a pretty busy week, to be fair. And, there just need to be a few shout outs, in a time when police are having a real bashing at the moment. There was an interview that I shared, a very short interview I shared of a chap in Glasgow that the BBC and Sky interviewed, who said, at a time when we're seeing the police being bashed and called all sorts of names and had a go at, this is yet another example of true heroism. And I'm not just talking about Glasgow, I'm talking about Reading as well. 2 absolutely horrific incidents. And lots of brave members of the public and people helping to give first aid, but 2 very brave, incredibly brave police officers. One who's been seriously injured, but is, we're told today, is in a stable condition in Glasgow. His name's David White. And I don't think we've got a name for the guy in Reading. There's a couple of conflicting stories. One saying that he's a sergeant and one saying that he's a young officer with just 14 months service. So huge, thoughts sent to all of those and congratulations, not congratulations, well done to everybody involved, the public and the police and the other 999 services. Must have been a truly horrific, both of them, truly horrific incidents to deal with.
Absolutely, completely. And I know there was a particular shot on the Sky News of a young man there who looked quite shocked. and was saying, look, guys, all the police are getting a bashing on the media, but this is what we are in the UK, and really supporting what the police did, how quickly they were to keep everyone safe, and obviously putting themselves at risk. So I always said, as a firearms tactics advisor, I said, there's a question of whether you have units, I'm talking about any incident that is potentially dangerous. You have units that I was obviously armed response, and they'd say, right, should we hold off before you get there? And I said, we as the police should at least put ourselves at the same danger as the public. And therefore, if firearms officers are far away with a particular job, then it's right that they should send tasers, or because police officers can actually, at least they can shout and guide people away. Yeah. So it's really important. So it's not a question of just holding everything off. It's important that you send firearms officers to jobs like that. Any aggression with a knife, I would say, definitely so. But we don't know the details of that, so we're not commenting specifically on any of that. And but it's just with general.
Hero and I had one just the other week where firearms weren't that far away, but the risk to life was deemed that high that I said to the ops inspector, I said, I'm going in, and he said, you have to. Luckily, it wasn't quite as reported when we got there. But you kind of just go in and hope for the best sometimes. Taser, which is obviously in the headlines and fairly controversial at the moment, but anybody who's seen it or used it will know it's not controversial at all. Is a great kit. It's not going to stop you from meeting the wrong person and whatever else, but you know what? It might just save you or someone else.
Taser I've seen in front of my eyes save a life. I would have had to shoot someone if the taser hadn't been there, without a shadow of a doubt. I, in 2019, last year, got a judge's commendation for baton gunning some guy who was coming with 2 knives. Mind you, I had pretty good incentive to baton gun him at that point. Baton gun allows 25-meter distance with someone racing towards you or somebody else with a knife. However, it's always backed up with conventional firearm. I think it was just because we had body cam that everyone suddenly goes, oh, that looks horrendous, when we've been doing that for years and years and years, doing that similar thing. Taser, I did do a blog on Taser. It was 2016. It's very relevant now. Taser's been updated to another mark, but again, very little different. So if you want to know the pros and cons with Taser, then have a look at WordPress, Harry Tanguy, Taser. Just search that in Google and it should come up. I call it a tool of the pacifist because it undoubtedly saves lives. And if you've got a heart condition, I'd suggest you just don't go fighting police.
It doesn't matter what we're using. I think some forces in America are trialing something that wraps you up as you run towards the officers, or you're being a threat. And if it gets you in the wrong place, you're going to fall over and hit your head. If you're being violent or you're involved in a situation, or you're remonstrating with the police, or you're trying to get away or whatever, then we can't throw cotton wool and bubble wrap at you. We don't have such a thing at the moment, so we've got to get hold of you somehow, or everyone just gets away with committing crime or being suspected of committing. I don't know what the answer is.
And have a look on my Twitter page, one of the latest one. There's an anonymous officer who's just retired from Devon and Cornwall Police, has done a brilliant article explaining the issues with policing. And this is why we're saying it's one-sided information. Bang, 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 bang. All the corrupt, all the police are sort of, well, there's not a very good thread coming through. And this is a really good article that he's put in. It is a retired officer from Devon and Cornwall recently. It wasn't me. Okay. This one here, just very quickly, before we introduce our very special guest, is do you think the use of water cannons would be the right thing? I've had no experience on them, but remember, our streets are very narrow and you have to refill these things because they use a hell of a lot of water very quickly. I personally don't think they are the right thing, because by the time they're in place, everyone's run around the corner to somewhere else. And it would just be another thing to bash the police about, because they're being rough to very violent people. But there we go. So I personally don't think it's certainly not the answer to everything, that's for sure.
No. We can go on all day.
We can. We will maybe later.
If there's any military police out there, this is tongue in cheek. There aren't many more police forces that with a reputation in as well than military police. And I know our next guest isn't military police, and I'm sure she's never had to be dealt with by the military police, but they do come with their own reputation.
I don't know, she's got a glint to an eye. I don't know.
Maybe she's got, what's the big basis for training for that sort of thing? I'm sure she'll tell us. I'm sure
she will.
It gets a bit rowdy at the weekend down there, and the MP are around.
At the moment, she's just drinking all our red wine in the green room.
Oh, leave me.
Hospitality. Yeah, so I'll tell you what, I'm just going to introduce. But this is Amanda Hickson. And she basically, I'm going to show a quick video of the sort of job that she's done up until very recently. She's an RAF pilot, Tornado GR4, did 3 tours in Iraq, 45 missions. So she didn't just turn up and have a little fly around. She really got involved heavily, I would say. She was the Squadron Combat Survival and Rescue Officer, instructing on escape and evasion tactics to her teams. She was the only female aircrew in the Tornado GR4 at the time, and the second one ever, I believe. We can ask her more about that. And now as a civilian, she's just released a book, which we'll talk about as well. Brilliant title, as an officer, but not a gentleman. And so she's a keynote speaker for the business and education sectors. And she's also volunteer reserve for the Air Cadets, I believe, as well. So we'll have a little look at that. But I want to just show you this little picture, this little video here. Let's have a little look. This is Tornado GR4. It's a beautiful thing. And I want to ask as well, you get the slanted wings. I mean, look now look at the navigator's right hand. Right.
Oh, that's the seat that John Nichol used to sit in.
It was. I said we're slowly moving our way up the aircraft.
That's it. This week we're talking to the front seat.
Yeah, driver. Yeah,
driver. It's got to be a driver. Driver, isn't it, Andy?
And look, so wings slanted back, I assume for extra speed, but I'm assuming not so much agility at that point, but I want to check that. And that basically is what we've got. We could play that forever, but I'm not going to, because I want to speak to our guest here. That's if I can get my cursor there, and I have. Right, so I'm going to introduce our guest, who I'm really excited about, Mandy Hickson. Welcome. Thank you for coming. How absolutely amazing to see you.
Hi, Mandy.
Great to see you both.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, well, it was just brilliant because your name came up because I heard about this brilliant book, and I've ordered it. And then I got in touch with you, and you said, "Oh, Harry, I'll send you a book." And I went, "No." So I've just thought it was really nice to say, "No, I've already ordered it." So it was genuine interest I was showing, not just to get you on our podcast. So it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Yeah. How are you? You're
I'm really good, actually. Yeah, we had a day on the beach yesterday, so I'm feeling all a bit suntanned.
Would that be Bournemouth?
Oh, yeah, I just thought, you know what I love? Crowds. A crowd.
500,000 people, yeah.
There,
and lots of feces.
Yeah, and a few old sanitary towels. I thought, roll on the beach. You know, lovely. Can't beat
it. Oh! Do you see the door open then?
Yeah.
The door open behind? Hey!
We're all matching.
I can't hold one up. Mine hasn't arrived. Sorry.
You've got to get out.
Literally just arrived that second. Rowan, thank you, Rowan. You just opened the door and skimmed it across the floor.
Great timing.
You've trained them well, Harry, haven't you? I think I hope a cup of tea will arrive, but it just doesn't have that same.
Oh, mate, Father's Day, the first time, they're 21 now, twins, boy and a girl, and Father's Day was amazing. 48 cans of BrewDog, a special deal. And I said, finally, the investment has paid off. It's paying off well. But, so we went to the beach, and because I went to the beach recently in opposite Salcombe, and it takes so long to get through the windy roads. It said like 16 miles 40 minutes on the sat nav, and that's what thins people out, I think.
Was that Mill Bay? Did you go across to Mill Bay then, Harry?
No. Well, no.
Because that's on the other side, isn't it? In Salcombe.
Yeah, Mill Bay. I see. No. I was going to drive to Salcombe and then bring the ferry across, which is good. I mean, it's absolutely idyllic there. It is lovely.
We go every year, actually. It's one of my favourite spots in the year in the world.
We don't have any beaches around here.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, we don't have any beaches around here, so I'm not jealous at all.
Ray Heskins saying GR4 that beats Blues and Twos. Okay, but I will say I've had some Navy helicopter pilots in my car, and as we were going to an RTC at about 140 mile an hour up the motorway, and one of them said, "I keep looking for the police, but then I realise I'm in one." Basically everyone wants the blue light, don't they? But anyway, Maddie, we diverse again. It's good that we've got an hour.
Harry's just said that his fastest speed is 140. What's yours?
Oh, yes.
About Mach 1.2.
Which in old man's terms is what?
Oh, well, because you...
Yeah, I know it's to do with...
The Mach number, it actually doesn't have a thing, but it's probably about 700... Well, if it's just like a standard setting, about 760 is Mach 1 when you're sort of pretty close to the ground. But so it might be about 800-ish. I could be talking rubbish there, not sure. But yeah, it's pretty fast. And let me just say to Mark, who said about the swept wing aircraft, my wings at that point were definitely swept. So yeah, basically you have them forwards at 25, and then as you go faster, they go to 45, and then eventually they go into that dart shape, like a and that's 67 wing sweep, and that's when you're going really fast, basically.
Oh, I see.
Do computers work that out, or do you have to work that out? I mean, do the computers...
You would have thought it would be automatic, wouldn't you? But it's actually a manual thing. I mean, when you first start, however many times you've done it, you first start and you're thinking, and it's one of the checks as well. And you're coming back in, and the instructor in the back would go, wing sweep. Oh, sorry, yes. Because you always forget, to stick them in. So
yeah. And if you haven't got the wings back, it must be like driving with the handbrake on a little bit.
Well, you don't really notice it actually, but look, that's when you're hanging around. That was me flying air cadets. Yeah, so yeah, and it's a lovely day because of course it's Armed Forces Day today.
Yeah,
yesterday was the day.
I noticed, yeah. Well, let's start from the beginning, because there's something really intriguing about this, and I've got a couple of photographs. Nothing embarrassing, nothing I could dig up from the dark web, because I'm sure there's been some parties. And the military, they're very known to be sedate and in bed by 10.
Much like the police, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, we used to have fun in the police. We're not allowed to anymore. We've got to be all responsible. But yeah, I mean, one of the first things I noticed, which was really familiar, is that because people look at you, aspiring people who want to think, I'll stand no chance, as a pilot, and that's men as well as women. And yet you did a bit of flying initially, did you, before you applied, and then you failed the flying test. The test, was it?
Yeah,
what was that about?
A bit of background. So basically, joined the air training corps when I was 13. I did so on my mother's recommendation, and it was not initially because I wanted to fly. It was because I went to an all-girls school, and she said to me, "Oh, but there'll be boys there." And I thought, well, that's a really good opportunity. Really, genuinely why I joined. And I joined on the day they opened the air training corps up to girls. So up to that point, it'd been only boys. So she's reading in the Manchester Evening News that the air training corps is opening its doors to girls. And that's why I joined, to meet some boys. But I flew when I was there. And once I flew, it was in a chipmunk, which is now in a museum, which makes me feel really old.
We're all there. Don't worry, we're all there.
Yeah, so flying this chipmunk, I just loved it. And I describe it. And when I fly with the cadets, I actually finally stopped doing it last year because I just couldn't balance everything up. I'm doing it for about 7 years after leaving the Air Force. I describe them as dancing in the air because it really is, especially when you go around the clouds and stuff like that. And,
so jealous.
It's really, it can ignite a real spark. And the one thing is that you know, my mum always used to say to me, well, if it's going to be someone, why shouldn't it be you? And I think, you know what, my dad ran his carpet business, my mum was a home economics teacher, you know, it wasn't like, okay, military background. I mean, my grandfather was a Second World War fighter pilot. So it was, you know, obviously I'd grown up hearing his stories, but so got into it, loved it, got a scholarship when I was 17 at Blackpool Airport. Yay. So if you get it, there's a massive tower, which is handy. You know, you're like, oh God, where am I? Oh, look, there's the tower. So I did that. And basically you could pay the extra 10 hours for yourself. And I'd saved up enough money on my paper round to pay for myself to get my private pilot's license. So I got my license on exactly 40 hours.
Amazing. That was a long paper round, and not said in the rude term that it would normally be said, I have to say, but in order to earn so much money.
I've been doing it for some time. Yeah, it was about £1,000 I'd saved. That is a lot of newspapers. They were the free ones. Remember when you got the free newspaper delivered? You had to hand out hundreds of these bloody things just to get some money back. Yeah, so that was that.
Mark Twist has just asked, what is the what's the biggest G that you pulled?
So yeah, Mark, I mean, basically the Tornado is not a big G monster. So basically, because you will normally have all the bombs, weapons, fuel tanks hanging from it, you don't pull a lot of G in the Tornado. But I was put on a trial to test out the G suit for when Eurofighter was coming online. They wanted to test it out on a woman, and I was based down near Salisbury at Boscombe Down at the time. So they said, "Would I do this trial?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I was in this G suit, and we got a Hawk aircraft, so the same aircraft that the Red Arrows fly in. And I'm in the back seat of this Hawk, and he said, "I'm just going to put some sustained G-force on, Mandy." And I was like, "Yeah, no worries at all." 9G.
Whoa!
I'm pinned there, and he said, "Just move your head around. See how's the G suit?" I go, "I can't move."
Oh my God!
And you know what the funniest thing was? We did this sustained 9G, which nearly killed me. Your body at that point becomes the same weight as a Formula One car. That is how heavy you are. And when I took off, I was in the bath that evening, and I noticed I had these really strange marks. And basically all down my arms and my legs, where the material would be stitched together, I had burst by blood vessels, basically.
No.
And like a rag doll. It looked like I'd been stitched up, literally seams, every seam from the G suit.
They must have just been playing with you, surely, because 9G, I don't think it doesn't go much more than that, does it?
No, you
9 times your body weight.
Yeah,
isn't
and
it?
The thing with that as well is, I mean, the Hawk normally is 7G, but this aircraft had a special dispensation to go higher so that they could test out this G suit. Honestly, it nearly killed me. It was exhausting.
Right. Well, I think it probably would have killed the average person, wouldn't it? You must have been incredibly and known how to stabilize yourself. I mean, I think I would have been dead.
I think I pulled about 1.4G in my X5. But you see, this is it, isn't it? I was very two-dimensional. My driving, I enjoyed the driving, especially cross country, and especially if there was a couple of you going to a job, and we used to do blue light runs, and it would be an hour long a lot of the time across country, and it was great fun. It was, and but it's two-dimensional, and I've had that because my dad was born in a different generation that he should have been. So he's born in 1909, and he was a Spitfire pilot, air reconnaissance, and he was a test pilot before and after the war. And I look at the clouds and I think I should be up there. But then I went in lucky enough to go in a Spitfire a couple of years ago.
I read on your book. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I had to mention it. Chris was just being absolutely brilliant, a good friend of mine, and Chris Beer, and I did feel a bit airsick, and I'm like, no, I want to savor every moment.
Quote I saw from Mandy somewhere. I think it was. I'm guessing it's in the book, but mine didn't arrive. I think it was in one of the serializations. Yeah, that book. Yeah. If you just hold it up against the screen, we can all read it.
Yeah.
Where you said that there was nothing better than taking off in a from a dreary British airfield, and then punting for the sky, and then punting through the clouds into beautiful blue sky. I mean,
it really, David, is unbelievable, and that is one of my favourite days, especially if you're flying with cadets and there's some clouds around, but it's say like a really a really dark, dull day below, and you find a gap because you can't go through clouds with cadets, but obviously we can. Normally we have an instrument, but you find a gap and you ping up, and it's this brilliant blue sky, and you can see the going. It's like you enter another realm. You know, it really is. And
I remember the first time I've got 3 daughters. The first time I told them on a dreary day that actually up there is beautiful sunshine, they were like, "Really? How could it be?" Wow, what an amazing job.
So you did this test. You did the test for the flight, and you failed it, didn't you, or something?
Yeah.
What were the details? How did you get around that?
So, well, it was probably like when I read in your book, actually, Harry, that you failed to get into the police the first time that you applied, and I'd done
what?
in that book.
Sorry.
I'd done everything I could. I joined university, and I wanted to keep my license going because I got this private pilot's license, and I was so excited. But women weren't allowed to be pilots in the Air Force still. So, it's still a brick wall. You can't just change a policy. You are a young person. And so basically, it was in the second year at uni, and they changed the rules. And I was like, oh my God, the timing's perfect. So I applied to join. I went to RAF Cranwell, like yours. It was 3 days of interviews, aptitude tests, which are all done on the computer. They're about 4 hours long. And they're testing everything from your mental agility to your situational awareness, your memory skills, mental arithmetic. Anyway, at the end of the 3 days, I found out I failed them all to be a pilot, and I was devastated. I mean, truly devastated.
I bet you would have been utterly devastated.
I had a lot of flying under my belt by then as well, so I thought this is really weird. So you can take them twice though in your life. That's it. And after you've done them twice, you can't take them again because there's a level of learning. So there's actually, we've got to limit it to twice. So I took them again the second time a year later, and I failed them all again. And that was at the end of the line. You cannot. I wasn't allowed to go any further. And that's why, and I talk about it in my book a lot, actually, because I joined this club, the University Air Squadron. I'm flying along at Birmingham, and I was, at the top of my game. I was put forward for aerobatics competitions. I'd beaten all these sponsored male pilots, and yet I couldn't pass these tests. And they said, my boss said, I think the tests are flawed. And he basically went the extra limb for me. And I always say, you know what, we need to have people that believe in you. And outside of maybe your immediate sphere. But for him, it was he just felt that there was something wrong with the system, and they'd only just opened the doors to women. And so he got 2 external examiners. They flew with me. They all graded me as above average. And so I'm there thinking, it doesn't sit right. So, I joined in the end. They offered me a commission as an air traffic controller. And I thought, I didn't want to do it. No. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, foot in the door, absolutely, Dave. Foot in the door. Once I'm in, and they always say about the military, you join the military for wanting to be an officer primarily, to serve the RAF and serve the country, and then your trade that you do, i.e., flying, pilot, an engineer, is secondary to that. And so in the back of my head, I'm thinking, right, you're in the door. Now you can make your case. And I did. I just wrote all these letters. I had quite a lot of influence with regards to these reports that had been written. And eventually, I think I just wore them down. I think they got so sick of getting me down.
Determination.
Yeah, and I basically got this letter back, and I was on officer training at the time. So this horrible feeling of I've signed up for this career, but my goodness, I might not end up being a pilot. And that was a really constant.
But then you could have said, you could have gone away all bitter and twisted. Like we have so many people in any trade, but in the police, I've seen them where they've applied for a department and then they fail and they go off and say, the system's rigged and whatever. And they get bitter and twisted and they disappear. And that's what I've always said myself. And it's really familiar, is just give it another go and then find another way around it, through it, over it. And if you're keen enough and you go, and I love the fact that other people get bitter and twisted because they make it so much easier for you. They open the path for you. And it's interesting because my dad he joined the Navy as a cadet, and then he was in the Navy, and he used to see the biplanes flying off the decks. So that's what I want to do. And he applied when he was old enough to fly in the Navy, and he failed the medical, something to do with his ears, balance, or whatever. And so he left the Navy. He learned to fly privately. and then he joined the RAF and was flying Spitfires. So,
you see, that's a lovely story, isn't it?
Yeah, just got around it somehow. Just determined. Just give it a go.
It is that feeling, and I see it now. So I speak at a lot of schools. When I left the Air Force, I thought, you know what, I can be a really strong role model for young people. And I say people say, oh, for young girls, but actually it is for people. It's not just for girls, it's boys as well. And actually it is that feeling of, you know, I think in this younger generation, it's a feeling of giving up a bit too soon. You know, that it's not built in that resilience yet. And, you know, actually we will fail at many things.
Yeah.
It's up to you what you do with that. And I love that with your book as well, Harry, when I was reading it this morning. And it was, you know, it was like, you could have just gone, oh, do you know what?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, what do I need to do? I need to do is become a special constable. And I think that is it. It's like working out a way forward, you know. And I've had that the whole of my life, really.
Yeah. And people often ask, well, how do I get into the police? Because it's, and I say, get your foot in the door. I say, so if, you know, even if you're a call taker, they can see what sort of person you are. You will find it so much easier to join the police otherwise than just being a civilian they've never even heard of.
Absolutely.
So it's just a really important message. And I've seen your video, your website, actually, Mandy, where you've got some videos and things. You're a very, very proficient key speaker. So I can see that. It'd be quite fascinating. Just one of those. Did you
ever meet Kirsty Murphy in your career? Because Kirsty at an air display, and then of course they looked into her life and they were like, oh my god.
So it's a really lovely little story, actually. So I've got a great photo of myself, Jo Salter, who was the first female Tornado pilot. I was the second, and then Kirsty was the third, actually. And there's a photo of us at a reunion in London. And and basically it was fantastic. We had this photo taken and we sort of popped it out onto social media, and I sort of said, what's the collective noun for a group of female Tornado pilots?
Yeah, well, you've just created it. What was it?
Well, it was a mistake to put that out because, you know, the world of banter. Let's just say most of them were so rude. What was it? It came back. Oh, we had obviously aviatrix, which is, you know, obviously there. But there were some fantastic ones there, most not repeatable. But no, the Kirsty was, I saw one of the questions came up and it said, have I ever flown with the Red Arrows? Yeah. And I had the opportunity just before I left. It's called a swan song, and I contacted the Reds, and I knew quite a few people on the Reds, and I said, guys, I don't suppose I can come and have a trip with you. I had one previously in my career with them, and they said, yeah, of course you can. So I basically went up to Scampton, and Kirsty had just joined the Reds, and it was really lovely. And so I flew in formation, and they were doing this thing called the roll back. They were learning. It's quite a hard maneuver where you roll back and you then come back into formation. They were learning it for the first time, and I was in one of the aircraft watching Kirsty doing this for the first time. So no, it was lovely. So I have met Kirsty many times since then.
Is she the blonde lady? Is she the blonde?
Strawberry blonde.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, strawberry blonde. Yes, I've seen, because I saw
Red Arrow, female Red Arrows pilot.
The only female Red Arrows pilot.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And chief engineer, I think, of the Red Arrows was female as well. I think, wasn't she? 1 year, I think she was. I'm sure. I was going through the questions because somebody asked just that. Did you ever get to fly with the Red Arrows?
Yeah, I thought. That's why I thought I'd answer that one. Yeah.
Cool.
Amazing story that both of you've got. And as I mentioned at the start, Mandy, I've got 3 daughters, and I'm gonna approach the elephant in the room. It's not really an elephant in the room. We live in the 21st century now, but I used to get frustrated when they were young because all their family would buy them dollies, and I used to be like, well, let's buy them a Meccano set, or, you know, anything but other than dollies. And I've always told them that you can achieve anything you want. You know, just don't look at yourself as female, look at yourself as a person, and you can achieve exactly the same as, you know, over there, whoever they are. And there were some amazing athletes, like the triathlete Kirsty Wellington, who, you know, went on to smash all the records set by the men. And I've tried to use them and people like you and people like Kirsty to try and inspire them. And Kirsty really did inspire them to show them that you really can achieve anything. So what was it like? I mean, when did you start in the RAF? What was it like coming through that predominantly male-dominated time. And I think of the one-to-one you had, and I'll let you explain it, where lager came up.
Well, when I first joined the Air Force, I was going through officer training, which is what I was in the one of the newspapers this week, and they picked up on that. And I'll be brutally honest, I was sort of a little bit miffed because they chose a sexist angle. And do you know what? For the majority of my time in the Air Force, actually, I have worked just with some brilliant people, and I haven't found sexism to be a massive, massive issue. But I also think that maybe that's because I have got a very, very thick skin, and you have to. And I'm sure that many people would say that as well, same as the police force. You know, banter used to be harsh, and it used to be really, really brutal. But when I first joined, I was going through officer training, and this is what was in the book. It's in the prologue. And basically, I mean, it was just absolutely priceless. I got called into my flight commander's office, and he said to me, "Yeah, it's been brought to our attention that you're not very feminine." And I was thinking, I was in full nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare. Where would you like me to be more feminine? I'm crawling through mud. I've got a gun. You know, we're out in the field training to be soldiers, and I want to train to be a fast jet pilot, which is potentially going to go to war and maybe have to, you know, drop weapons. Where would you like me to be more feminine? And he just said, well, it has been noted that, and I said, I even drink half pints we weren't allowed. I mean, this is it. In officer training, you were not allowed to, as a woman, to drink pints of beer at the time. And so on my flight, you know, you'd go and there's 10 of us, I'd get 9 pints. And I thought, well, you know what? There's no way I'm not going to get one for myself. So I'd get 2 halves to make a statement. So 9 pints and 2 halves, you know. Oh, my goodness.
Brilliant. That story reminds me a little bit of, there was a post on social media, Harry might remember it better than me, not that long ago, and it was someone having a go, I think, at a female police officer, saying, "Oh, how unfeminine she looked, and how masculine she looked," and her reply, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, "I'm pretty sure if I'm holding the hand of your dying relative, you wouldn't care how I was dressed."
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean that for me was it wasn't an isolated story. I mean. When you go through training, then you end up very much like the police, you know, with your core group. And these are like brothers in arms. They were like my best friends, my family. And the relationship I had with them was really, really strong. And so I wasn't really aware of sexism because you're going through the system with this little band of brothers. Yeah. And we got to Rift Valley. And that was the first time when I'd started just to notice it a little bit. But it was just banter, and basically it was one of the guys on the course. It was a guy called Tristan, and he said, Tristan, this guy Rob, or Puppy, he was called Puppy because he was so young, and the young pup, and he said, we're not happy with how all the instructors make a comment to you every day. So if you've got 20 instructors and every single one of them just makes one comment, and they were really mild ones, like, well, we can tell which jet Mandy's flown in. Obviously, it's not parked straight, you know. Or you'd snap.
Dave, I shouldn't laugh. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing, Dave? It's not funny.
You know,
sorry, carry on, Mandy.
About you're putting your lippy on when you're getting out, or you know, a lot about your periods. Obviously, you know, they have to mention that. So there was all that, and only one of them would, you know, one comment from each of them every day. But that's 20.
20.
And the guys didn't like it. And it was the guys that said, Mandy, are you happy for me us to speak to the boss? And I went, no, because actually that highlights me as having complained, and I'm not complaining. And they said, no, we know you're not, but we don't like it on your behalf.
Yeah. And that's because they followed you around and heard the 20 comments, wasn't it? And it was obvious.
Because, Mandy, also because they will know that you are just as capable, if not more capable than they know.
Otherwise, they'd be chatting behind your back. My wife used to work for Flybe as a cabin crew. In fact, I was just teasing her recently. Pretty much all the last 5 jobs she's done have gone bust since she's been working for them. So any potential employers out there.
Just be careful. Just don't
move on. Move on. You know, unless you want to run it into the ground. But she said they used to have quite a few female pilots. And it's a thing that I knew in the police as well. I just want to come to. But when you fly from A to B to C to D so often, because they would literally fly from Exeter to Manchester to London, back to Exeter, Channel Islands, to Greece, you know, and back. I mean, that would be sort of one day. And so the pilot was saying, you know, good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be flying, the weather in Greece is so. And of course, it wasn't Greece they were going to. And because she was a female pilot, everyone goes, oh, yeah. She said, and you used to get Becky a bit vexed about this. Like, because if that was a guy, it would just been a funny little mistake. Oh, you know, da-da-da. But because it was a female in what was, and not so much now, but a, you know, predominantly male thing.
Well, it's still is.
And I think, and it is still. And I know, speaking to firearms officers, on armed response, we do the same fitness, the same training. And I have been failed by my very good friends because I was in there for so long, 23. And they've said, we've got to pull you out, Harry. You're not up to it this time. And I'm like, you know, that was the professional relationship. They don't pass you through because they can't do that for, if you're flying a Tornado or you're shooting a gun in civilian life, they can't go, you'll be all right on the day. If you're not up to scratch, they'll fail you. Yeah. And I think, but she always says, this one particular woman who's working there says, do you know what, when I'm with the guys, I don't even think they are thinking it, but I feel like I have to prove that I can do the job first of all, and then prove it because I'm female. Because if I fail, are they going to be saying, oh, you just had a bad day? Or are they going to go, there you go, it's not, do you know what I mean? It was that extra pressure for you because of that. It must have been.
I saw one of the questions that came up, actually, did I not consider becoming a commercial pilot? And actually, I did. I retrained when I left the Air Force. I did all my licenses to become a commercial pilot because that's called the gravy train. And also, it says that you're pretty much, that's what I've done all my life. I am a pilot. I'm in that box, and therefore that's what I must do. And my husband was a pilot at the time for EasyJet. And I sat there and I thought, you know, I did it all. I got my licenses, got qualified. If you look, so the figures for females on the front line, in the cockpit within the airlines at the moment, I know that when Carolyn McCall was the boss of EasyJet, her mission was to try to get it from 7% to 12% women on the flight deck. And she failed. She didn't manage it. Right. So we also, when you say there are few, it's still less than 10%, you know.
Tiny.
And I think when you look at female fast jet pilots, I think we're about 1%.
Yeah.
So it's tiny amounts. I mean, only 5 women ever flew the Tornado GR4 on the front line. You know.
Now, do you think, because I had some part of we used to have these operational day open days for women, and people say, oh, why are they just for women? Because we want, basically, people might think armed response, for example, or Tornado pilots were big macho guys and they felt intimidated about going in. Because that's not my world. I don't like all that. Yeah. You know, big ARVs. I see them driving around in the cars, muscles, you know, with crayons and stuff like that. Dave, I'll say it before you do. And do you know what? It just wasn't that. It just wasn't that. If you went to a dodgy job or a suicide or even whatever, you would get. Everyone was very compassionate. They were always very thoughtful with each other. They all knew that you would have a bad day. They'd try to bring you through. And it just wasn't that big macho thing. And it was just to impress upon you. Do you think that the numbers are so low because, well, probably the example you had at the beginning, but they just think, well, I'm never going to stand a chance, or I don't want to be the only female in there because I can't cope with that for 20 years or whatever.
I think it is about role modeling. So, just say take the Air Experience flight. So the Air Experience flight is run by volunteer reservists, and they take cadets up from the Air Training Corps and combined cadet courses.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And it's great. But when you go in, you have a big board and it's got all the pilots on there. And I went into 2 AEF, which is where I've been flying for many, many years. And I am the only woman out of 40 pilots. And when I started doing it, I went, don't take my picture down because I don't want the girls to become not seeing it. Because if they don't see women doing it, they still think it's a career for them. And I know that sounds mad, but there's been quite a few different campaigns that have been run. One was by this charity, and they put in, I love this one. It was the charity was Inspiring the Future, and I've done a lot of work with them in the past. And they put in into a young classroom, classroom full of young people, 5 and 6-year-olds, and they basically said, I want you to draw a picture of a firefighter, a surgeon, and a fast jet pilot. And out of the class of 60, drawings, they were, I think, all men they'd drawn in their pictures and named them, Bill the firefighter, as men. And these are 5 and 6-year-olds. So it's all in their brain. So when these 3 women went out, got changed. Oh, who's that, Dave?
It's Rory, our 11-year-old South African Mastiff. He wanted to come and say hello.
Oh, you're going to get a lot of saliva now and slobber.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't be a bit of slobber.
No,
but yeah, it was interesting. And they came back in their outfits, and all the kids went, "Why are you dressed up like that?" And they went, "No, we are them." And they went, "What?" And this is the saddest thing.
Brilliant.
The woman that was a fighter pilot, I won't mention her name, but she actually, one of the children said to her, "When you go home, are you going to have to give your outfit back to your husband?" It just shows you, going back to your point, where you say, about girls and playing things. I was a tomboy. I was the one that was in Lego. I had action men. I was climbing trees and falling out of them constantly. So I
don't have an issue if my girls want to play with dogs, but I want them to have that choice. I want them to have the hammer that they can bash their finger with. I want them to.
We did an experiment.
And that's fine. But to force it on them and give us all that unconscious bias or whatever you want to call it.
But we did an experiment with Rowan and Savannah, my kids, because basically when they got from baby stage where they all look the same, although Savannah was £4.10, she was like a little Tesco's chicken, and then we said Rowan's £6.1. See, it's impressive, isn't it? And put them together,
a £10.
Yeah, well, put them together. I was £11. That's right. But then they get to the ornament stage where they're just sitting there, not doing much. There's nothing going on really. And they just
balls,
and then they start playing with toys. And we genuinely, and I've got to be honest, I don't know if we did it on day one or but it was really soon. We put a pile of toys between them. We used to call them Rowan and Savannah Island. These little mats they could play with stuff. And between them, we put lots of hard plastic blue things and cars and fluffy pink things and cuddly toys and things and dolls and things like that. And we mixed them up. And we found it was naturally selected that Rowan did go for the blue plasticky type stuff. Yeah. So I know there wasn't masses of, but how much were there? Subconscious sort of, whatever it is, with it. There wasn't, for me, that's what convinced me. There was a certain thing about, the natural choice for people to have.
I think there is that though, Harry. I genuinely think there is. And, there's been lots of experiments that I've done. And there is a selection, that boys do migrate more towards the cars and things like that, But I tell you what was another one. I was watching this really interesting one. And basically they dressed a little baby. So they had these 2 older children of about 4 and 5, and they were playing with these babies and they dressed them up in the wrong clothes.
Oh.
So they made the boy look like the girl and the girl look like the boy. And these little children kept on giving what was the boy but dressed like a girl, all the little toys, all the little girls' toys. And he was not interested, and they couldn't understand it, and they were kept on forcing these toys on him. He kept, and eventually it was like he crawled away and got the toys that he wanted, and the older children were like, "That's not right." So you know what? I think there is a selection, and I do think that naturally you can't get away from human nature. And that there is the nature, there is the nurture, but I just think it's about opportunity, and that's
exactly it. It's about opportunity.
Showing that there's some really good role models out there, and that you can do it, and it is open to everybody.
Just making all these things approachable, really.
It is, absolutely.
Look, time's getting on.
People like you, Andy, showing them that they can do it. That's what it's all about. I will just say, my girls are absolutely massive petrol heads. And and our Av geeks too. My eldest daughter, her favourite plane is the B-17. We're not far from Duxford, so Sally B's up there, so she absolutely loves that. So.
Do you know why I'm shaking my head?
Why?
I nearly put my kids up for adoption because none of them like silvery expensive things with engines. They're not interested. They couldn't care less. I said, look, Rowan, look at that. I'm the one. Right. How many times have I seen a police helicopter, an air ambulance? How many times have I flown? I've flown in a police helicopter. Who's the idiot going outside to see what, to see the Chinook come over, and I'm like, oh, Chinook, you can hear it a mile off, and I'm outside, and my kids are like that. Couldn't care.
Neither can mine. I've got a 17.
Really?
They have no. I said to them, "Are you going to read my book?" And they went, "No."
No, mine won't. Mine won't either. Mine won't either. I don't. Look, before time's getting on. Sorry, Dave, to push in again. Really, low-level issues on the tornado, because the tornado's got special, radar-y stuff that's really good for low-level and all that. What was the issue in Iraq? Because I remember all the way back there with Desert Storm and stuff like that. They were getting, and John Nichol was a casualty of this, really, of the low-level, and they were getting shot down or damaged severely. And didn't you eventually go high level again because of that? What was the sort of issue you were able to say?
Well, it was too dangerous. I mean, as in Gulf War I, we took too many casualties. Obviously when the two Johns went down, and Rupert Clark as well. And you know what, they said, actually, let's push it up higher. And so they developed the weapons that could be dropped from higher level, and that's where you got all these paveway bombs and the different weapons that once you then got GPS guided bombs, laser targeted bombs, all of those ones, you can be just as effective. Yeah, thanks very much. Just effective, but without the risk as much. But the thing that we found though in Afghanistan, and I didn't actually fly in Afghanistan myself, I was pregnant at that time, but what we saw was that things like show of force could be just as powerful. So you're not even going to drop anything, but they know that if our troops are on the ground, just coming over very fast and very low, and you do make, one hell of a noise, don't you, in tornado? Once that is enough to them to worry that they were going to turn around and either come in and strafe. But some low-level shows of force and things like that. But no, the tornado technically was designed as a low-level bombing aircraft, and the terrain following radar is phenomenal. You can plug it all in, take your hands off, and sit there and watch yourself flying at 250 feet without touching anything, drop a live weapon on a target, still not touching anything, and you're thinking, oh my God.
Mandy, come on. We need some funny stories. So if you think of the police helicopter, and it doesn't happen now, of course it doesn't happen now, but if someone would ring in and complain about the police helicopter over their house at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can imagine back in the day, of course, that if the helicopter crew ever found themselves in that area again, then they would do a nice turn so that they got that real chop, 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 chop of the blades as they were going over their house.
Oh yeah.
Have you got any? You just talked about when you smash the throttles and you get that noise. I mean, have you got any funny? Have you ever buzzed the tower, for goodness sake?
No. I could quote you, Top Gun, infinitum. Actually, there was one story, and I did take it out of the book, actually, because I just thought, it's probably not showing us to our best light, actually, but I'm happy to get it out. But basically, there was this farm in the middle of Wales, and we were going through RAF Valley at the time, which is Advanced Flying Training. And basically, the farmer wrote on the roof in huge letters, F off, Biggles.
Biggles.
And basically, and it became known as the F off farm. And actually, as not going there, it was marked on the map as a target. So as coming in, target the old McDonald's farm, basically, and do what's called a pop attack. So you come in really low level, pop up, roll over the top, come down, and then basically you come in as if you're going to absolutely, then you drop your bombs and then you pull off at the end.
Oh my God.
So actually, they got the full vector of the.
Brilliant. That's a book too, then. I remember seeing on the air shows, just, literally, I think my feet on the runway eating strawberries and champagne or whatever, and because I managed to blag our way into the nice bit, and the tornado just came. Of course, you see it before you hear it, and I am sure it went woof, woof, oh, and it just seemed that tight. Oh my God, it was just fun. And then he just went and went, and it was almost like a little puff of air as it disappeared and was never seen. And as they went home, and I just thought, wow.
I mean, the tornado was fantastic, but when you see the new aircraft like the F-35, the Eurofighter that was, again, I mean, even Eurofighters, it's an incredible jet. And when I did I went into the simulator for Eurofighter, and I just sort of took off, and I was flying Tornado at the time, stuck the reheat, and I was like, oh my gosh, the power of that jet in comparison as new technology was coming on. I mean, I'd love to go in the F-35 now. I mean, I had a program on it though where it wasn't working. They just went, oh, just turn it all on, off, and then turn it back on.
I was in a Sea King, well, not quite so much with when they were flying around on the air sea rescue thing, and I managed to blag a day with them as well. Funny, and they said, sorry, boss, we're going to have to go back. We've got an issue with the navigation systems. It's just down. And he said, have you turned it off and on again? And I'm like, I'm glad it was that way round. Yeah. And, they did, and it worked. We carried on.
We've got Mark's question here. He's asking about the nickname. So when I got to the squadron, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a really cool nickname, and I was thinking like maybe Ice Maiden, all that sort of thing. Just like Iceman, I'm dangerous. Yeah. And then basically they gave me my name badge, and let's just say 6 foot tall, Sesame Street was on in America. What's my call sign?
Big Bird.
Big Bird.
Big Bird. I with Big Bird right across my chest. I'm like, that's very disappointing. We only used to particularly wear those in the bar on a Friday evening. And one occasion, I went to the dentist on the Monday morning, stuck my flying suit on, went into the dentist, and I'm used to having Mandy Wells, which was my name at the time, written across my name badge. And I walked in, and she said, "Name, please." And I went, "Hello," and she went, "No, we have no Big Birds booked in today." And I was like,
I love it.
I love it.
And that's what I miss in the police. I sort of would
miss.
She has gone. That wasn't me.
Oh, Mandy's gone.
That wasn't me. Honestly, I'm not doing autopilot.
Draw your hands. Don't worry. Where's she gone?
Here we go. She's coming back.
I'm back.
Here we go. She's coming back. Come on, Mandy. You can do it. You could do it for the last 4 minutes. Hey, she's back in the room. Mandy, it wasn't me.
It looks confused. Can you hear us, Mandy?
Was that you?
Can you hear us, Mandy?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear us? Yeah. You're all on.
Oh, she's
pinged off.
Yeah, no.
I took the opportunity to wind John Nichol up, and I've got to do it to you now because you've led yourself to it. You can control a £35 million top of the highly, the most technologically advanced fighter jet in the world at the time, but you can't operate a computer.
Wasn't even touching it. It wasn't me, guys.
Yeah, that's what they all say. I don't know what happened there. That was weird. Mandy is rebooting, Linda says.
Yeah, it's not.
Mandy, that was just phenomenal, isn't it, Dave? I mean,
I could talk to Mandy all day long. Absolutely incredible. I want to hear more funny stories.
Yeah, one really funny one, and this is. So basically, we're doing our nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare training. We're in the gas chamber. We're all in our full NBC kit. And basically, we went in straight after lunch. I was in with 10 new recruits. They were all 18 and 19-year-olds. I was in there as a bit of a role model as well. And the one when you have to remove your gas mask like this, and you've already taken a deep breath, and you decontaminate your face, and you put it back on, and then you exhale, clear out the fumes before you breathe in clean air. And we're at this stage, basically, everyone's getting nervous. We're just about to do this. And basically I hear, and it's my mobile phone. It's in my chest pocket. And basically it was the days before touchscreen. So I thought, I looked around and pretended it wasn't me. And the sergeant is looking straight at me. He goes, "Oh, ma'am, just turn the bloody thing off, will you?" I was like, yes, to stop the noise. Hit the answer button. And it was a voicemail message from my husband who basically went, "Where's my sexy woman?" Basically, let's say he'd been to the hospital for a minor operation that men have when they decide not to populate the world further. Wanted to in graphic detail with the young men exactly what he'd done on that day.
Oh, that's incredible. Absolutely brilliant.
We've got to end it on that. And Kay Nightingale, absolutely right. Please invite Amanda back for more stories for Big Bird.
Show us your book, quick. Show us your book.
An Officer and Old Gentleman, available on Amazon. Yeah, it's got lots of stories in it. basically the highs and lows.
Right.
Yeah, it's having some really good feedback, and I feel really humbled when I get them all. As
the reviews are massive. The reviews,
yeah, been brilliant.
Brilliant. I'm really looking forward to reading mine now. So yeah, I'm there. And just before we go, yeah, thank you, Mandy, so much. And it felt like 10 minutes, that, didn't it, Dave?
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah. Next week, I'm just confirming, but we should have Nick Knowles with us. So that would be an absolute beauty. Just juggling a couple of things. So it would be to actually confirm it or whatever. He's not going to be nearly as good as Mandy, unfortunately, but we're just going to have to put up with him. Can I say
quickly, Mandy? Someone's just asked, because John told us this one, did you ever catch your navigator napping and spin the plane upside down to wake them up again?
No, but I did have someone that basically may have a little bit of over excess the night before, and so I did that to him. Yeah.
Good.
Well done.
Thank you ever so much, everybody, today. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you, Mandy.
Guys, absolute pleasure.
Thank you, guys. It never ends really easily.
We're still live. Don't swear.
Yeah, we are. And we are going.